What's good, Neptune Sunday family? You're hearing a different voice for the first time to start off the show. A little role reversal. Vaughn, how's it going?
What's up, Vogue? How are you?
I'm great. I'm hosting today, so I'm feeling really good. Little change of pace for you guys. I'm actually going to be asking Vaughn some questions, because I think as anybody who will be listening to this podcast knows, there's a movie coming out that's of all of our interests. It's called Piece by Piece, and it's a documentary about Pharrell and his story, his musical journey. And that'll be coming out soon. One thing about me is I do not do a lot of research into the movies I see. I like to show up with a fresh face, and I already know about I already know a lot about Pharrell. But Vaughn here, our team researcher has done a lot of research and watching talk about Piece by Piece and what you know about it so far.
Yeah, so Piece by Piece officially came out this weekend. I think it came out like late Thursday. And you know, obviously for me being a kid from Virginia and loving Pharrell and Chad and what they've done and what they mean to this to people like me from this place, I've been excited about this for a while. Just watching all the interviews and the press for leading up to it this week has been really, really cool to get the perspective of it. Like, just people, my family knows so much about how important, like, how inspirational Pharrell is to me. Like, my godmother, I was at home in Richmond last week for basically for like 8 days, and my godmother told my mom, "Hey, make sure Vaughn checks out Pharrell. He's going to be on CBS this morning on Sunday morning." I was like, "Okay, guys, all right." And then she called my mom, "Hey, it's about to come on." And so they turned it on and we watched it. And it was actually a really good interview.
Nice.
But he did a bunch of press, like did a GQ, he did GQ and Zane Lowe with Morgan Neville, the guy who directed it, the documentarian, that is kind of like the other voice on the movie. Um, he did Jimmy Fallon, which was cool. To see him interact with the Roots, obviously, is always cool with him and Questlove. Um, he was on NBC. Today's Show actually took Princess Anne High School band with them to the Today Show, which was really cool. Just
That's
again, like
cool.
just to continuously use a platform to put Virginia on the biggest stages in the world is really cool.
Yeah.
But a couple takeaways, right? Like one thing that I really enjoyed about the Zane. Oh, I also got to mention he was on Hot Ones. So like Hot Ones was really cool because the questions were the questions, but like honestly, we don't get a chance to really get to see how hilarious of a person P can be. Like, and that really shows
Yeah.
because he's making jokes while his mouth is on fire. Like, but that was cool. But the seriousness and the actual promotion of the movie, like I think the Zane Lowe interview was really cool. Like Zane Lowe made it a point because we know Pharrell to be a person who doesn't like to really talk about the past. And so like, it was a moment where it clicked for Zane Lowe and he said, "Oh, well, yeah, you wanted this to be a creative exercise, not a reflective exercise." And that's what traditionally documentaries are, right? Like you're sitting in front of someone, they're asking you these questions about your life. But having it be through the lens of Lego is how it turns into something different. And I'll talk a little bit about that more when we talk about the movie. Um, he talked a little bit about we had this conversation on Twitter with one of our followers on Twitter because we celebrated this week an anniversary for a Shakira album that came out in 2009 that other than like for me, I'm not a huge Shakira fan, and I obviously like I collect the Neptunes and Pharrell tracks, and so but other
Yeah.
than that, those songs like didn't really sit with me. But that's part of our promotion and our celebration of the music is to celebrate those anniversaries, no matter whether we love the music or not. And I
Yeah.
think that like the comment that the follower made was this was when Pharrell was in his will work for food era. they thought it was a hot take. And I was like, well, no, like actually on the CBS This Morning interview, like he said that. He said like there was a time where I felt like I was lost because I was not curious and I was not learning anymore. I was getting away from the things that made me excited about it, and it was becoming more formulaic. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense because this is about the same time he's talking about around 2009. So that was
Yeah.
cool.
I think you and I had a little bit of a conversation about that, because I am really into Latin music,
Yeah,
and surprisingly, the Latin Neptune tracks don't really resonate with me, but it feels like a cash grab, which all of us who have jobs know what that's like. But I think that it's interesting to hear him say from an honest place of like, yeah, I was just like getting into this place where it was like super formulaic. And I also think, something you said a little bit earlier that I want to kind of like bring back out is that like Pharrell doesn't do press like this. Pharrell doesn't talk about himself in this way, this like grandiose way. And I think it's interesting to like, in the same way he does his music, watch him kind of flip how people do documentaries in a way
yeah,
that is like satisfying to him creatively. Because like I would watch something that was like a historical annotation of what who Pharrell is, but like for him, that's not satisfying at all. So like I'm very interested in it from that perspective of like, oh, I want this to be a creative thing.
yeah.
And you were getting ready to get into something. I'm gonna bring that back up. Like what was kind of like the through line? What's the story that you're catching through all these like interviews, these press tour,
Yeah.
um, that you've engaged with?
Yeah, I mean, like a couple, like he made this joke a couple times. Like I think it was on Jimmy Fallon and on the NBC Today Show episode interview was basically like, again, just kind of helping to make people understand why the Lego thing makes sense to him. Because like we say, he doesn't like to really make it about himself, but he kept using this example as, do you like to hear yourself on your own voicemail? And he would ask the crowd, and the crowd would say no. So that's why I didn't want to just sit and like do an interview, it's like traditional style interview documentary. Um, he also like made it a point to say a couple times this idea that it's part to inspire people that they can build things piece by piece. And a quote that I've actually tweeted that stuck with me is he says, now is a better word than never. And I think that that's really like, that hit me. I mean, obviously, people that know what's going on in my real life, that they understand that. But I thought that was really cool. But I think one of the biggest things, two things that are really important that he talked about in the press, but is really set people up to be prepared for in the movie is one, just how we've always heard him talk about synesthesia and seeing sounds,
Yeah,
just how the visual of Lego was actually able to show you that.
yeah,
Because if you go see the movie, like they set it up by in the beginning of him being a kid and listening to Stevie Wonder and seeing the music, like the sounds come from the speakers. But the concept of that synesthesia is incorporated as he starts to build up this role as someone who's providing these sounds to other people and how he
yeah,
presents those sounds to those people. And so, like, him and Morgan Neville talked about how important that was. And so, Morgan Neville and the animators would have certain songs be uh displayed in a certain way, and he showed it to Pharrell, and Pharrell would say, well, no, the color for that is different, right? Like, so, drop it like it's hot is a different color than it's a specific color in his brain. And he remembers those,
right,
right? Like
right,
he
right.
tell those guys, nah, drop it like it's hot as this color, and they can change it and put it in the film. So that was really cool. And then the second thing that's really important is he talks about how the partnership with Lego was important from a standpoint of all the different kids around the world who use Lego. This now put Lego in a position where they had to really consider skin tones and they had to consider hair textures for characters that were going to be in this movie, but also like it's their policy, or if we're going to put them in a movie, there has to be a character that we can actually make. And so like having this movie and having Pharrell force them to reevaluate and really add certain things like culturally to their products, I think is one thing. But then I also thought it was really, really cool that Morgan Neville basically said, like, I talked to engineers because like if we have Pusha T and Jay-Z who have, braids and dreadlocks, like, okay, cool. That's one thing for us to have that conversation. Like we need to add that to our product line, but then
Yeah.
like, or for the sake of the movie, but like the engineers are telling them, well, we have to be careful because like if it's small enough for it to break and a kid can choke on it, like then that's bad for us, right? So like
Yeah.
the detail of that is like really shows, and I think to get the perspective that they've been working on this movie since before the pandemic makes a lot of sense. Like collecting the interviews with all these people was really cool. But just to hear them give that type of behind the scenes perspective on how the collaboration with Lego really went, I thought was really cool,
I
considering
think,
how unique it is.
yeah, I think that is actually kind of something that's important to talk about. I didn't know. And I think that like Pharrell can get a lot of critique about how, once you're famous for a certain amount of time, you have a certain level of being removed from the everyday experience. And so when you talk about like, he's still bringing kids from high schools in Virginia, he's still positioning this documentary in a way where like kids all over the world can relate to it and kids all over the world play with Lego. So they need to see themselves in this certain kind of way. I think that it's important that he is doing that kind of work and he's being intentional about that. He's not just like being like, I'm this high level celebrity and like, so it's whatever. And I think that really shows like the heart he has for people.
Right.
That I don't know gets showcased a lot.
Right.
Um, or in a fair way.
For sure. For sure.
Well, I'm gonna pivot a little bit. Talk to me about the Something in the Water cousin screening.
Yeah, so shout out to Something in the Water Cousins. It's a group of folks that live down here in the 757 who like just got connected by going to the festivals and organize and like they do events and they do meetups, you know, throughout the year. Obviously like they have more specific programming around the festival, which unfortunately is not happening this year, but um they had the timing just worked out, right? Like this would have been the weekend for the festival. But they instead were able to have this screening to like bring all these people together. They had gift bags. I think I have some of this stuff right here. So like this
Not
is
gift bag.
like a patch. Like this is a specific logo they made and a sticker that goes with it. My guy Ricky, who's like the leader, had this on a shirt, which was wild. Um, but yeah, so I
We've
saw,
leveled up the swag
yeah,
bags.
I saw them post about it and I was like, I just reached out. I mean, I got
Yeah,
the time and I think it made sense. I said, hey, I mean, I'll come and cover the event, do some interviews with people and get some feedback and talk to you guys about what you guys are doing.
yeah,
So at minimum, with some content and some connections, some networking. Really cool to meet some people who actually follow us and listen to the show that were already there. Like I had no idea we were going to be there, so shout out to them.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a really cool event. I mean, they filled a theater, which is like that's a big deal. Like that's not
Yeah.
just, like, oh, we got a few people that are gonna come see the movie with us. Like, no, like this is a theater that we rent out. And they had prizes and stuff. Like they had a grand prize raffle. Like they gave someone the Pharrell Lego set that came out a couple weeks ago.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So overall it was a dope event. Really cool to meet them. So I really appreciate them. We got some content that will start to get out the next couple of days. Well, actually, the interview that I did with them, I will throw at the end of this audio version.
Yeah.
Also, like the interview will be on YouTube too for you guys to check that out and get to know those guys.
Very cool. Very cool. So you got to see the movie.
I got to see the movie for free, which is like at the minimum, going out to meet them and see the movie for free was good. So I appreciate them for that. I will say that there was um an actual sanctioned screening on Thursday in Virginia Beach that Pharrell was at that um I heard was really cool. It had like all the guys were there, pushing and mouse, and those guys were there, which was really cool. So it's been a great weekend in the 757 for the opening of the Piece by Piece film. We're excited.
I love that. Well, we're not going to ask you to tell us more about the movie because I think that we should all go see it for ourselves. But can you like give us your top five takeaways? Like, what
Yeah.
did you think watching the movie?
I mean the story, like I think the biggest thing, like I kind of talked about earlier, is just the idea of how the Lego, having it be told through the lens of Lego makes it feel more narrative instead of a documentary. So
Yeah.
like usually in documentary, you got the person sitting in front of the camera and they're telling some stories, and then maybe you got some B-roll or some old photos that you can clip to, but like it's not really like you're not in it. It's not a story. It's like you're just listening to someone talk about the stuff, and
Yeah.
then the way that they're able to turn it into a narrative film with the Legos is really cool. So like instead of you just sitting and seeing Snoop talking about what they did, like you see him in a Lego studio with his Lego Crip entourage, and then it turns into, seeing them on at a Lego concert where they're performing Drop It Like It's Hot and all this. Like it's really cool. Like you, and then
Far beyond what B-roll could provide.
yeah, and then it's like, okay, cool. Like you're getting to hear this insight and see this, but then it's like, oh, you realize it's Lego, and it's just like, what am I watching? Like,
Yeah.
I just watched Snoop talk and then turn into a dog. Like, what? So it was really cool. I think that helps it in a lot of different ways, like keep it fresh and allow you not to get bored with it just being like people just talking about it. The second thing I'll say is like there's so many behind the scenes people that are in there that's really dope to see them, one, be featured, and two, also get their own Lego character. So like Tammy Lucas is in there, Mimi Valdez from Vibe magazine, like executive, like music executive Big John Platt is in there. Obviously, Rob Walker, who ended up turning into Pharrell's manager, who's been a part, like basically helped him start Star Trek.
Yeah.
Gosh, what is Sir barking at? Hold on a second.
Wants to be part of the show.
What are you doing, man? What is your problem, bro? What is your problem? Hey, hey, relax.
Funnily enough, I couldn't hear him.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the behind the scenes folks like Rob Walker, who helped them start Star Trek, is a huge like piece of the story. And then to have like his part of it be told in that way, like for the first time, was really cool. And having he has really good perspective on how things got built from the beginning, and also like just how he was around for some of the ups and downs that Pharrell went through specifically. Like Kawan Prather, KP, like it was really cool to see him. Um, Even though I wish that T.I. had been in it. So Kawan Prather is one of the Atlanta music execs who like helped connect T.I. and Pharrell in the beginning. But he's in there talking about how he wanted to get, what song was that? It was a song that he wanted for Usher. He wanted to get fronting for Usher. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so he talked about that and it was really cool. Like
yeah.
having Teddy Riley be on there. We've never
Yeah.
really heard. I mean, I think Teddy Riley just did Drink Champs a couple weeks ago. I haven't watched it, but having Teddy Riley tell their story from his perspective is really important too.
Yeah, it's like it's so many people. Like we look at somebody who is famous and we see them and we're like, oh, they built themselves, da da da. But there are like 100 people in the background that are a part of that journey that you usually never know of. So to
Right.
hear that like some of these people are getting featured is really dope. It's like really important, especially for people who like want to be in the music industry, who want to be not necessarily an artist, but maybe want to work and help create that vision for somebody. Like to know that like there are spaces for you too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Even Nigo has a spot in it where he's talking about
Nice.
the starting of BBC Ice Cream and
Yeah.
got a Lego character, and they have the subtitles there for him, which is really cool. I'd say the third thing that was really cool, and Pharrell talked about this in I think the Zane Lowe interview, is I think this is probably the most access we've had to Helen. Uh,
Mm, yeah.
Helen actually like there's parts of in the movie that tell their story, their love story.
Oh, wow.
Helen actually like is a character and speaks like she like you hear her like I don't think I've ever heard her talk until this week. I think Upscale Vandal had like put her on his Instagram story, but like she's in the movie and you know he, Pharrell's parents are in there, so I think like Pharrell made it a point to say, especially Helen and the kids, you know, it would be less likely to have them included if it wasn't for the Lego part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
that helps him feel more like, okay, cool, this is they're in it, but they're not really in it.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
let's be careful with that. So I thought that was really cool, and I'm glad that the Lego aspect of it made him feel more comfortable sharing that because it's a really important and cool aspect to the story that is important that I think would have felt weird if we left them out. Like you can't just leave out your wife and your kids, man. Like we know they
Yeah, they're important, but you also don't have to overexpose them in this way of like, now you got to be on set filming in front of a camera. You can do it in like this cool way. So like I love that they got to like feature them.
right. So there's also like in most documentaries, my next point is, usually in documentaries, there's a point where there's a down period. And I
Yep.
think that's like we talked about earlier, like Pharrell mentioning that he felt lost during that time where things weren't as fresh and he wasn't as committed to what he fell in love with in the first place. And the way that it's done is very well, like very well done in terms of it being authentic and it being a little bit darker, but still being Lego. And again, I think that part of it also the Lego really lended itself well to making it like exciting and not sad. It was like we like Pharrell is sad in this part, but like the imagery like during this period they incorporate like a part of Busta Rhymes interview that kind of explains what Pharrell's going through
Hmm.
and the way that they visually depict what Busta Rhymes is saying with the Legos
Hmm.
is crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's I mean, well, I can say it because they said it in the interview. So I'm not spoiling because Pharrell and Morgan already spoiled it. But basically, this is a period where Pharrell's doing too much and he's not as committed or interested in the music. And Busta introduces this concept of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas that are
Yeah.
trying to tell you what to do and what you should be doing. And they visually depict those shoulda, coulda, woulda people as like suits, like business people who are trying to tell Pharrell what to do and make this hit and make this type of music and do this thing. And so as he goes through this process, and then he's trying to please the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and they're happy and they're around, but he's not making the music that people want. Like Push, this is the part where Pusha comes in and says, "All Eyes on Me" with Carrie Hilson is his least favorite song ever, right? And so then Pharrell gets to this point where he's like trying to figure it out, and then I think Buster's quote is like, when things are going bad and you're drowning, and the shoulda coulda wouldas abandoned ship, and like it literally like it got this Lego of the shoulda coulda wouldas in the water with P, and then all of a sudden they hop off and a like life vest. I mean, a life raft comes, they hop on it and they
Yeah.
go away, right? Like
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite parts of it, just because
Yeah.
how the Lego part was such an important piece to that visual story of what Pharrell was going through, and
Yeah.
Busta's voice explaining it was just like one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah. That sounds perfect. Carrie Hilson will never get a break.
Push it like really. I don't know if again like I have to go see it again because I was also taking notes. So
Yeah.
I was watching, but I was like, and like I told Key last night, if I go see it again, I probably will cry. Like I'm just like ready. It's just I'm emotional these days, but I couldn't remember if like if Pusha was like in a. It almost felt like Pusha was in a therapy session because he was laying down and he's like, man, he made this song called All Eyes on Me, and I hate it. Like it was so like But it was that whole part like was
Yeah.
very important to that whole part of the story. Um, Last thing,
Yeah.
not the most important, but a very important takeaway. We know that P and Chad are not in the best place right now, or I mean, we don't know anything. We just know that there's speculation about whatever, and they're not in as good of a place as they've been. Let's just say that. And so, one of the interviews, I think Zane Lowe was the only person that like really actually asked him about it, and he was, Pharrell answered the way you knew he was going to answer. He said, you know, things are not. He's like, the legacy of the Neptunes, like is kind of the question that Zane Lowe asked him. He's like, well, we all evolve. It's not bad. It's just different, and that's okay. I'll always love Chad. I'll always be grateful for what we did together. Um, and so it's important for everyone to know that Chad is like prominently in the movie, like, and it's Chad's voice, and it's Chad, a very dedicated couple of scenes about how they got connected and how their friendship blew up. And like, that was beautiful. Like, even to the point where through that whole downside that I was just talking about, there is also another moment when Pharrell comes out of his funk and Chad is there to greet him and say, "Hey, welcome." Like, so it's important to note that Chad is in it. Chad is featured. Chad's voice is in it. And it's an important part of the story. So I'm glad that that was at least
Yeah.
able to be like whatever their relationship is, which doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
glad
not
that
our
they
business.
keep him in there and still be featured like that.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that like that speaks a lot to at the end of the day to go through so much of your life and so much of your career with somebody like that's family. And we all have families. We know what it's like. Sometimes you're talking to your family every day, sometimes you haven't talked to them for months. And like whatever they have going on between them is actually really their business. But I'm glad that Chad gets his moments throughout this and he's just not like cut out of the story. So that's a relief to me personally. What do you think what do you think this movie means to Virginia? Like you're from Virginia. I know what it means to you, but like what do you think that means to the greater community?
Yeah, I mean, just talking to some people at the screening last night, and just like, the movie starts with him talking about being in Atlantic's apartment projects in, the 757 and like what that meant. And, you know, this idea that when you think about products and you're looking at products from the outside, all the negativity that you assume is happening in there, but the movie does a great job in the beginning of him being able to tell the story about how great it was inside, like how, we rode bikes together and we all like, did all these things that we know people do in our community, and like no matter what, like that stuff was still happening in a positive way.
Yeah.
Um, but then ultimately, it just comes down to stuff that we talk about on this show all the time with me and my friends and other people that we interview that are from Virginia. It's like at the end of the day, the point of it is that you can do it too. And like we heard that, but to have it be presented to us again in this way is just another crazy reminder that like we see Princess Anne High School, we see Pharrell and Missy and Timbaland and Chad and Shay, you know, in Lego form, but grow up in Virginia. Like it's very important to us, and so I think that that's kind of like the pride that a lot of the people that I talked to last night, and just the pride that I have, and the fact that you can do it too, and it's also like you can do it too, and you can do whatever you want. I think that that's something that's important for us to realize, and something that P also made it a point to say in a bunch of his interviews this week is like whether you're 8 or you're 80, you can build it piece by piece, right? Like that's where the other quote came in. Now
Yeah,
is
chill.
now is better than never, right? Like that's kind of like kind of some of the themes that he kept repeating is whether you're 8 or 80, you can build it piece by piece. Now is
Yeah.
better than never. It's like that combined with you can do it too is like that's the message that I take away from it, for not just from us from Virginia. Obviously, there's a sense of pride that comes with that too, but that's just kind of like the message for anybody.
Yeah, I think that's a something that like at least in our generation, that's something that Pharrell has imparted on us. And like being an adult, like a real adult,
Mhm.
I think that it influences a lot of the decisions I make, a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to make happen now. Like, I love that that's like what you feel from that movie. Fun question.
Sure.
What was your favorite cameo?
I don't know, man. I think everyone I think that Buster cameo because of the context I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that there are a good like run of people, frequent collaborators
Yeah.
who don't have like interview speaking parts that are in the movie. So like there's like a montage where he's in the studio in that run where they're making all the hits. So like I think it was like Madonna, Beyonce, Usher, maybe I know it was at least those because I recognize those people because like they didn't get interviewed, but like that run of them being in the studio was crazy.
Yeah.
I'd say, I mean, it's hard to say a favorite, but I will say, and one of the people that we talked to last night made a really good point that I thought was really cool is Gwen Stefani. Uh,
Dope. Yeah.
Gwen Stefani's part of it was cool, but they also are telling the whole story. So they start with hella good. So like the No Doubt guys are in there too,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So to have her talk about that, but then also like those guys be included, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd say yeah. I mean, I was happy to see I was happy to see everybody, honestly. Like I thought it was really cool. You know, people like so I'll give you a little tidbit too. So there's three people who well, there's actually four people. So who are not playing themselves, but they voice other people. So there's
Okay.
one scene where Pharrell's like going to all these label meetings, and one of the people that is the label execs, they don't title them Steve Stout, but it's Steve Stout's voice. Um,
Okay.
there's another in the beginning, there's another sense part where there's a DJ talking about some songs, and the DJ is Family's voice.
Oh, dope.
Um, what's the other one? Oh, so then like a huge part of it, which also was gonna make me cry, like they have his grandmother is a huge part of it too. And so his grandma gets him to church and starts learning, like he gets inspired by music at church, and the pastor at the church is Charlie Wilson.
I love that.
Charlie Wilson starts to sing um the nerd song God Bless Us All.
Oh, wow.
Yes, which was crazy. And then your favorite, I say this for last on purpose because your favorite. There's a part of the movie where they talk about Pharrell not doing well in school, and a teacher comes to yell at Pharrell, and the teacher's voice, Tyler, the Creator.
Life made. Thank you. All right, last question. Who was the most realistic? Because you did not pick a favorite, and I'm going to accept your PC answer.
I mean, the most realistic I think was definitely uh I mean Chad's was realistic.
Okay.
I'll say Rob Walker's was really realistic as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean everyone kind of like looked like some semblance of themselves. Like
I mean, considering that they're Legos, I think that we can
yeah,
only ask but for so much.
yeah. And I think
So,
like you know who it is based on more so their dress than their face,
yeah.
their clothes.
Okay.
But
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
yeah.
I'm really more excited to see it than I already was. So, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off today?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great movie. It's really, it's really It's really good for the culture, right? Like I think, he talks about in the interviews about how this process started years ago, like before the pandemic, when documentaries were becoming a thing, and like they weren't all good, right? Like like a lot of those documentaries are like people just trying to hold on to some fame, or remind people why they were famous, or like you know just
People were bored at home. We all watched like
yeah,
the Tiger King. Like
yeah.
we've been through some content.
So the idea, like, you can't like executive produce your own documentary, and then it's kind of like your story the way you want to tell it. So it's not really objective. It's like, so I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I think the Lego part of it made it really cool. And he also said it's really important that it's able to be digested by, he's got 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to be able to, like shit, Rocket has got to be like maybe almost 15 or 16, but like
Yeah.
the triplets couldn't sit through this if this was a regular documentary. So
Right.
I think that's
So
pretty cool.
nice. Vaughn, this was fun. You gonna let me lead more?
Sure. Sure. Anytime. Anytime. We have, oh, I mean, when you can lead.
I do.
Get ready.
Am I
I'm
gonna,
thinking about that
are
all
you
week.
gonna tell the people?
That's gonna be no. I can't. We can't like. I don't like getting people's hopes up and then things that
Okay, keep
happen.
it a secret
But
for
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That's when you're really gonna show off. And I'm just gonna let the rings go. Like this is Vogue. I'm on whatever. I can't be held responsible for.
now. I want y'all to go to sleep tonight thinking of what he could possibly be talking about. And until next time,
Sheesh.
what do you say every time? Peace and love.
Peace and love. Thank y'all for listening. Go watch the movie. All right.
Bye.
It's your boy V Moss here for a special, let's call it an episode, a Neptune Sunday. I'm here with the Something in the Waters Cousins group, admins, the leaders of this cool group of people who get together and celebrate the Neptunes, what we got going on. We are here at AMC in Virginia Beach for a screening of Piece by Piece. So first off, let's get to know everybody here. Let's get your name and where you're from.
I'm Rochelle, and I'm from Portsmouth. Xiomara Rosa, and I'm from New York, but live in Virginia.
What part of Virginia?
Tappahannock.
My name is Ricky, and I'm from Norfolk, Virginia.
My name is Christine, aka Chris, and I'm from Hampton.
My name is Ahmad, and I'm from Norfolk.
All right. And for everyone that doesn't know, I'm Vaughn. I'm from Richmond. But I went to Hampton. But I know there might be some Norfolk State people in here. We're not going to get into that right now. Okay, cool. So I'm going to let you just take the mic and tell everybody what Something in the Water Cousins is, how it got started, and like what you guys do.
So we are Something in the Water Cousins. We wanted to find a very creative way that we could shine a light on not only the community, but we wanted to find a real creative way to be able to give back. We felt that Pharrell Williams did such a great thing with giving us the opportunity to have something in the water. So what we said, what can we do to shine our light on our community as well? So that's kind of how we grew. We consider ourselves the pulse of the community. We consider ourselves the community pulse of the festival as well. We make sure that the people's voice is heard as much as possible. Now, I'm going to be honest, at times we do feel unappreciated and overlooked, but that's okay because we are big on making sure that we can help our community grow and glow, and at the same time we can shine positive outlook on Virginia as well as the 757.
Appreciate that. So, what do you guys think about the movie?
I loved it.
It was dope. I literally, it made me cry. It made me laugh, and I'm proud that I think I saw my little self on the sand in the festival. I think I saw myself. So thanks, Pharrell.
What about you?
Hi. So it was impactful. It was inspirational, and it was intentional.
Just nostalgic, just seeing your own state on the map throughout the whole movie, seeing the little lights place with Virginia, seeing them highlight the festival there. So it just felt great to see scene as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you guys think that this movie means to Virginia?
It means that we are bigger than what people usually see. You know, they see the big states, they see like New York and New York City, they see LA's, but it's showing that Virginia does have, you know, all the talent that all of these other big cities have, especially the 757, and that's what he was trying to showcase. And that is why Teddy Riley had a, you know, he said, oh, I'm going to pick Virginia Beach. There was a reason why he picked Virginia Beach. So there's a reason why people come here, and the movie was just super inspirational, and I'm just super proud of him. And he mixed it with Legos, and that's just how he is. He can just do these creative collaborations, and it just makes a masterpiece. And I'm very proud.
He thought outside the box. He literally thought outside the box with this movie. So
For sure. I thought that I loved the movie as well. I thought that, you know, just watching all the interviews this week about it and just hearing him talk about the perspective of turning it into a Lego movie, when you see it, you just don't feel like you're watching a documentary. Like, it's actually like a narrative movie of his story, which is really cool. Okay, so who was your favorite of his friends that were in the movie? Who do you thought had the best Lego character of all the other famous people that were in the movie? Think about it for a second. Who you got?
Jay-Z.
Anybody else?
Me personally, actually, I love seeing Chad. A lot of people don't understand Chad was a major force in the early collaboration years of Pharrell in the Neptunes, and it was cool to see kind of his light being shined as well, his part of his story being told, and also give the audience a better understanding of why he's so reserved and why he's so low-key. So I really enjoyed seeing him, and as well as a lot of people don't know, he actually voiced his own character. So that's actually pretty cool, because a lot of people think he's kind of detached when he really isn't. So that was cool.
Yeah, I definitely think, I know there's been some news about the two of them, but like just to see him be in the movie and to show off how important their friendship was to the whole story, I thought was dope considering. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Was the grandma.
Mine too. Mine too.
Because I had I'm a big religious background, so just seeing the grandma is just like seeing my grandma and seeing how she inspired me. So.
Yeah, and speaking of the religious part of it, I thought it was dope, specifically like Uncle Charlie was the pastor, and like Tyler Creator was the teacher, which is crazy to think about that. So like the way that other people that you recognize their voices were sprinkled in, I thought that was cool too. All right, rapid fire, last thing. I'm gonna ask everybody, it's a hard question, but I want you to say the first song that comes to your head. What's your favorite all-time Neptunes or Pharrell Chad song? I'm gonna start with you.
Just got to go with that, just a song they produced, Grinding, because it's just, takes me back to high school, man, beating on them all.
Yep, Beating on the Table was his classic. All right.
So is anything he's produced?
Anything.
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
All right.
Mine was Happy, because I'm always happy. And like he said in the movie, at that point in time in history, everybody was happy because of that song. Like literally every country was dancing to that song. So I literally love that part, that song with Pharrell.
Mine would be Neon Guts with Lil Uzi. I love it.
Okay, so if you go follow the podcast, Neptune Sunday podcast, there's a video that I just posted from my wedding reception 2 weeks ago with me and my best friend. Thank you so much. Me and my best friend rapping Neon Guts. I'll show it to you after this.
Really?
Yes, that's one of my favorites too.
And I think it's so underrated.
It's underrated because it's kind of a newer one.
But that needed to be in the movie. I love Neon Guts. Yeah, man, that changed my whole attitude when I hear Neon Guts.
All right.
So I actually have two. One is more recent, and one is a nice throwback.
We didn't get to pick two.
No. So All Right. Just because how impactful that song was, and a song that I actually still play today to really get me going throughout my day and to motivate me is You Can Do It Too. Something about that song is just so inspiring. It really sends a message of regardless of what you're going through, regardless of where you come from, regardless of anything, you can do it too. There's no, that song really shows me that your dreams don't have deadlines. So that's really cool. So no matter, we just watched a man take a whole biopic and turn it into Legos. You literally can do it too. So that's anybody, even from a small town, anybody from anywhere, regardless of where you come from, you can do it too. So that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I don't think he actually said it in the movie, but I think that's just the theme, right? I think that's an underlying theme that's just kind of assumed. Like, that's the whole point of this, is for people like us that's from here, from Virginia, like, that's the message that I take away from all of this, is like, we can do it too. And thank y'all for hosting us today.
Like Piece by Piece, the song Piece by Piece. I love that. When the beat hits, oh my gosh, I like that.
That's when you start hearing the band.
Right.
The local band, Princess Anne, they did that.
One thing I also thought was really cool, that was the first time I've ever heard Helen's voice.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I didn't think it was her voice at all.
It was her.
That's her first interview.
Yeah, wow. That was really cool.
So that was dope. Just to see that part of him. One of the interviews from this week said that, like, if it wasn't a Lego movie, he might not have included the family part of it. So, like, I think that's something that's actually really dope, that we got to see him open up a little bit.
I didn't know all four of them were in high school at the same time.
Yes.
I thought they were. I thought it was some years between some of them, but that was
It's years between them, but they all overlapped at the same time.
I think really the one that's really kind of off his push, I think. He's the one, the younger. Yeah, he's the baby brother.
All right, what you guys got coming up next? What's the next on you guys' calendar of events?
we always do things around the holidays. So we do giveaways around the holidays.
10 days.
12 days of Christmas. 12 days of Christmas. We're going to be giving away gifts.
And then we go get in the lab and we prepping for
next year.
2025.
We prep this year for next year. We don't wait last minute.
Something in the water, 2025. I got a feeling something is coming. I'm pretty sure the energy in the room, even seeing something in the water up there in Legos, it kind of ignited the room. Even if people feel a little sideways about it being postponed, not canceled, but postponed, watching this movie kind of reminds you of this is why it happens.
He put us in the movie as Lego pieces.
I think
so that was very unique.
I think the movie has gotten people back, got that fire back in everybody. So that's what the Cousins doing.
And we want to do more in the community as well.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some more things.
And on that note, I want to thank everybody that contributed, donated, thanks to us for the group. We want to shout out Coastal Edge with D. We want to shout out Niche with Fishtails, Oceans 14, Oceans LA, and Zaza's Pizza. We want to shout out Superheroes Ice Cream. They donated free scoops of ice cream. We put those in the swag bag. Want to shout out Painted by
Paint Me Perfect.
Paint Me Perfect. She did the canvases, LLC. She was amazing. Those were dope. And also our volunteers that helped out today setting up. We want to thank AMC for letting us host this event. And anybody else?
We want to thank the community for
supporting
us.
They
that's
always
what it's all
support
about.
us. Yes.
Everything we do for the community because we are a part of it. So yeah, that's the big thing. And thank you to you as well.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Telling our story. Being a part of the night with us.
I'm glad you enjoyed the movie too.
The biggest thing is, like I said, we're from here, and it means something different for us to see him doing all this stuff and all those people from Virginia do all this. So it's good to be here. I appreciate y'all having me. Catch us next Neptune Sunday. Shout out to the Something in the Water Cousins. We'll see y'all next year.
Yes. Thank you.